The storm had raged for days. Boston was drowning. Parents begged their children to stay inside. And yet one boy slipped into the flood. His screams were swallowed by the river. But here's the question: who heard him? Not the neighbors, not the police. The one who answered didn't even belong to us. And what happened next would shock the entire city. The storm hammered the East Coast for 3 days straight. Grocery stores were emptied, windows boarded, families huddled together in fear. News anchors warned of the worst hurricane in decades. Boston streets became rivers, swallowing cars, flooding homes, tearing through the heart of the city. The Charles River was no longer a river. It was a beast, wild and merciless. The mayor's voice crackled over every channel. "Do not go near the water. Stay inside. Parents, keep your children indoors." But storms don't care for warnings, and children don't always listen. On the northern edge of Boston, the Collins estate stood behind iron gates and stone walls. Its gardens, once the stage for galas, were now waist-deep in floodwater. Inside, 8-year-old Ethan Collins pressed his nose to the glass, eyes wide. His backyard, his soccer field, his firefly haven was gone. In its place surged a black torrent. The little wooden bridge his father had built was barely holding, shaking under the current's fury. Beside him stood Henry, the family's driver and caretaker. His gray hair and worn hands marked years of loyalty. He'd raised Ethan's father once, and now he guarded Ethan with the same devotion. "Stay inside, young man," Henry warned for the 10th time. "That water out there is death itself." Ethan nodded obediently, but children nod at rules the way they nod at bedtime, already plotting to disobey. When Henry shuffled off to the kitchen, Ethan saw his chance. He pulled on his yellow raincoat, unlatched the heavy glass door, and stepped into chaos. The wind howled, rain stung his face, mud sucked at his boots. Still, curiosity pushed him forward. The bridge creaked beneath him as he leaned over the railing, mesmerized by the flood below, branches, fences, even someone's porch, rushing past like toys. Then his boot slipped. He screamed, grabbing the slick railing, but the storm tore him loose. His small body plunged into the torrent. The river swallowed him whole. He spun like a rag doll, arms flailing, lungs filling with dirty water. He fought, but the current was merciless. Ethan Collins was drowning. A mile away, retired Boston officer George Miller tugged his hood against the storm. His companion, Max, walked at his side, a German shepherd with amber eyes and a scar on his shoulder. Once, Max had been a decorated canine, a search and rescue legend. Age had slowed him, his muzzle gray, his joints stiff. But the storm had stirred something deep in him. "Quick walk, boy, before it gets worse." Suddenly, Max froze. His ears shot up, body tense. Through the roar of the storm, he heard it. A faint, desperate cry. A child. Max lunged, barking furiously. George followed his gaze and froze. Down the flooded canal, a tiny head bobbed, arms slapping weakly at the water. "Oh, God," George whispered. Before he could react, Max ripped free from his leash and bolted. The old shepherd didn't hesitate. He charged straight into the raging river. The current slammed into him, but Max powered forward, his eyes locked on the boy. Ethan surfaced once, twice, choking, before disappearing again. Max surged forward, jaws clamping gently on the collar of the raincoat, dragging the boy up. Ethan coughed and clung to his rescuer, his little fists buried in soaked fur. But debris battered Max, logs and trash slamming into his sides, but he pushed on. His muscles screamed, lungs burned, but he never let go. Inch by inch, he forced his way toward shore. On the muddy bank, George knelt, arms outstretched. "Come on, Max. Bring him in, boy." With one final heave, Max shoved Ethan toward safety. George pulled the child onto the grass, coughing and sputtering, but alive. Alive. Max hauled himself out next, trembling, soaked, exhausted. Yet his first act was not to rest. He staggered to Ethan's side, nudging his cheek with a soft whine. "Are you safe? Did I save you?" Ethan, shivering, reached out with a trembling hand. "Don't leave me, please."
and Max pressed against him, as if to promise he never would. Henry arrived minutes later, frantic and pale. Seeing Ethan alive, he dropped to his knees, sobbing, clutching the boy tight. Sirens wailed in the distance. Help was on the way. By the time Ethan reached the hospital, the story was already spreading. Neighbors had seen it. Within hours, local news blasted the headline, "Retired German Shepherd Rescues Billionaire's Son." By evening, the story was national. Social media exploded with praise. They called Max a hero, an angel in fur. When Richard Collins arrived at the hospital, the mask of wealth and power was gone. He wasn't a billionaire tycoon. He was a father, terrified. When he saw Ethan breathing, he collapsed beside his son, tears spilling freely. His voice cracked as he asked, "Who saved him?" Henley pointed to the corner, where Max lay on the floor, drenched and bone-tired, eyes fixed on Ethan. Slowly, Richard approached. For the first time in years, the powerful man dropped to his knees. His hand trembled as it touched Max's head. "You saved my son. You saved my life." Days later, cameras filled the Collins lawn, reporters, flashing bulbs, the world watching. Richard Collins stood with Ethan at his side, Max at their feet. His voice shook with emotion. "Buildings can be rebuilt, money can be regained, but life is priceless. My son breathes today because of this dog. Max gave us a miracle. I can never repay him, but I will try." He rested a hand on Max's back. "From this day forward, Max is not just a dog, he is family. And in his honor, I am establishing a $50 million foundation, the Max Animal Rescue Trust. It will fund shelters, train rescue dogs, and honor animal heroes across America. Max's courage will save countless more lives." Applause thundered. Reporters wiped tears. Then Ethan stepped to the microphone, his small voice trembling but sure. "He's my hero. I want him to be my best friend forever." Max's tail wagged. He didn't need cameras or applause. All that mattered was the boy holding him close, the boy alive because he refused to let go. That night, when the world quieted, Ethan fell asleep with Max curled at his feet. Just before drifting off, he whispered, "Thank you, Max." The shepherd sighed softly, closing his eyes. He couldn't speak, but he didn't need to. His heart already knew the truth. "You're safe now, little one. That's all that matters." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our family of animal lovers. Every day we share powerful rescue stories that remind us why hope, courage, and love still matter. Subscribe now and never miss a story that will move you to tears and inspire you to believe in miracles.